The galaxy was ancient, far older than most civilizations cared to remember. Across unimaginable stretches of time, it had watched stars ignite and fade, witnessed empires rise proudly and then crumble into dust. Through all of it, the galaxy simply continued turning, indifferent to the ambitions of those who lived within it. 30,000 years was more than enough time for entire histories to unfold. Species evolved. New powers climbed to dominance. Others declined and slipped quietly into obscurity. Humanity had become one of those forgotten names. Very few beings in the modern galaxy spoke about humans anymore. No monuments had been raised in their memory. No grand memorial halls celebrated their achievements. What remained of them existed only as scattered fragments, an ancient database, as small entries buried beneath thousands of years of newer information, or passing references in academic papers few scholars bothered to read. According to the official record. Humans had once been a primitive species from a single star system. They had only just begun exploring nearby planets when they disappeared completely. No cataclysmic war had been recorded. No devastating plague. No desperate final message broadcast into space. They had simply vanished, and the galaxy moved on. 3 great powers dominated the modern era. The oldest of them was the Valkyrie consensus. Their species were tall, gray-skinned beings with large dark eyes and for precise, graceful arms. They had been traveling between the stars long before humanity had even invented writing. Their entire culture revolved around logic, measurement, and verifiable truth. To the Valkyrie, belief, without evidence, was meaningless. Legends were distractions. Ghost stories belonged to children. The dead, in their view, stayed dead. The second power was the Mune Collective. They were shorter, broader creatures with pale skin and flat features, their voices resonating like distant drums. The Mune were traders above all else. Their fleets carried goods between hundreds of star systems, and their talent for managing resources made them indispensable across the galaxy. They valued practicality above philosophy. If something could not be traded, built, or turned into profit, rarely held their interest. Extinct species certainly did not. The third power was the Asari theocracy. Tall and long-limbed, their movements carried a quiet grace that many found unsettling. Unlike the others, the Asari were deeply spiritual. Their civilization revolved around the belief that reality extended far beyond the physical universe. Their priests were both revered and feared. Guardians of ancient texts filled with ideas the other civilizations dismissed as myth. Despite their differences, these 3 powers shared control of the galaxy in something resembling peace. It was not the peaceful harmony of friendship, but the careful balance that comes from understanding the terrible cost of war. They argued constantly. Border disputes flared. Political disagreements dragged on for decades. But open. War had not erupted for 800 years. And no one wanted to be the one responsible for ending that fragile stability. Trade ships traveled between stars. Messages flowed through interstellar networks. Civilizations lived their lives beneath distant suns. The galaxy continued spinning, far beyond its well-mapped regions. However, past the last clusters of bright stars, something old began to move. The region known as the Outer Veil marked the distant edge of explored space. It was a strange and quiet place where the galaxy thinned into darkness. Nebulae drifted there like ancient ghosts. Clouds of gas that had never formed stars and never would. Light reached the veil weak and tired, as though the long journey had drained its strength. Navigation systems behaved unpredictably. Sensors often produced readings that made little sense. Ships that ventured too far sometimes returned with data so strange that scientists debated its meaning for years. Despite the lack of practical value, the Valkyrie consensus occasionally sent survey vessels into the region. Exploration was simply part of their nature. Every corner of space deserved to be mapped and measured even. The empty ones. Asterisk. One such vessel was the Measured Step. Asterisk. It was a small ship by interstellar standards. Crewed by only 12 scientists and data officers, their assignment was straightforward: travel through a list of previously charted coordinates, gather environmental readings, and return with the results. Asterisk. It was the kind of dull mission usually given to junior personnel or individuals who needed quiet work away from more important operations. Asterisk. Captain Vascurin commanded the vessel. She was an experienced officer nearing retirement and hoped this would be her final assignment before returning home for good. Asterisk. For the first 3 weeks, the mission proceeded exactly as expected. The crew collected radiation data, gravitational measurements, and gas density readings. Every report looked the same: empty space. Then, during the 4th week, something unusual appeared on the long-range sensors. Asterisk. At first it registered only as a contact marker, an unidentified object drifting through the void. The ship's systems automatically flagged it as anomalous because its size and geometry did not match anything listed in the Natural Object Database. Asterisk. It wasn't an asteroid. It wasn't a gas formation. It wasn't debris from a stellar collision. It was artificial. Captain Vascurin stared at the display for several seconds before calling her senior science officer to the bridge. Asterisk. The officer leaned over the console, ran the analysis twice, and then slowly straightened. Asterisk. The contact appears to be a vessel, he said quietly. Approximately 4 kilometers in length. It is moving under active propulsion. 4 kilometers. That was enormous by almost any standard. Asterisk. Vascurin ordered the Measured Step to slow and maintain distance while a full sensor sweep began. Asterisk. The results came in gradually over the next hour. With each new data packet, the atmosphere on the bridge grew heavier. Asterisk. The whole material did not match anything in the Valkyrie database. Certain elements were familiar metals and alloys, but the specific layering and chemical treatments were completely unknown. Asterisk. Even more disturbing was the design. Asterisk. The arrangement of the hull sections, the geometry of the engine housings. Everything suggested an origin that was incredibly old. Asterisk. Eventually, the archive system produced a possible match. Asterisk. Confidence level low, but it was there. Hull design consistent with exploration vessels from the early galactic contact era. Estimated origin approximately 30,000 years prior. Asterisk. Species of origin human. Homeworld. Sol 3. Status extinct. Silence filled the bridge. Vascurin transmitted a hail across standard galactic frequencies, followed by signals on emergency channels and backup bands. There was no response. No. The massive vessel continued forward at a steady pace, neither accelerating nor altering course. Its trajectory pointed directly toward the bright heart of the galaxy. Asterisk. After documenting everything, Vascurin forwarded the report to Consensus headquarters and marked it as a priority observation. Asterisk. Then she watched the ancient ship disappear into the darkness beyond sensor range. Asterisk. For a long time afterward, she kept staring at the empty space where it had been. Asterisk. 3 days later, a young archivist named Sethanine discovered the report. Asterisk. At 23 years old, she was considered extremely young by Valkyrie standards. Her job inside the Central Archive mostly involved sorting ancient files and organizing historical data that few people ever accessed. Asterisk. The contact report had been placed in a low-priority queue. The receiving officer had assumed the strange readings were simply sensor errors caused by the unusual environment of the outer veil. Asterisk. The recommendation was simple: archive the report and recalibrate the survey ship's instruments when it returned. Asterisk. Sethanine. Read the note. Asterisk. Then she read the actual report. Then she read it again. Curiosity drove her deeper into the archives. She cross-referenced the vessel's design with ancient records about early galactic civilizations. For hours, she examined the scattered information about humanity, old radio transmissions captured thousands of years ago, fragmentary descriptions of their biology, incomplete records of early spaculac. Asta painted the picture of a small, fragile species that had barely begun exploring space before disappearing. Asterisk. But the ship's design matched the records, closely enough that the archive system had flagged it automatically. Asterisk, that alone bothered her. She submitted the report for escalation. Her supervisor reviewed it briefly and dismissed the concern. Sensor anomalies were common in the outer veil. The file was marked closed and returned to the archive. Asterisk. Sethanine stared at the closed status marker for a long time. The blurry sensor image stayed in her thoughts. A vast shape moving silently through darkness where nothing should have been. Finally, she made a decision. Within a week, she had taken leave from her position, rented a small scout vessel, and set a course toward the outer veil. The journey took 2 weeks. During the trip, she studied everything she could find about humanity. Ancient radio intercepts revealed a species that had been constantly experimenting, inventing and solving problems with relentless energy. Their technology had been primitive, but they had improved it incredibly fast. Asterisk. One old scholarly paper from 8,000 years earlier stayed with her throughout the journey. The author had written, asterisk, of all early contact species, humans are the only ones who make me wonder. Had they been given more time, what might they have become? Sethanine thought about that question often as the stars thinned around her. On the 31st day, she found the ship. Asterisk. It appeared gradually on her sensors, first a faint energy signature, then a massive structure emerging against the distant glow of the galaxy. Asterisk. Up close, it was even larger than the survey report had suggested. Asterisk. The vessel stretched 4 kilometers, its hull patched and extended in countless places. Sections had clearly been rebuilt over and over again across immense spans of time. Asterisk. It looked less like a single ship and more like something that had grown. Asterisk. Most of the exterior was dark and scarred from ages and deep space, but warm amber lights glowed through observation. Ports and seams between hull plates. Asterisk. Someone or something was still inside. Asterisk. SETHA-9 stopped 2 kilometers away and stared in awe. Asterisk. Her scanner translated part of the faded markings along the HULLUSCS, enduring resolve. She whispered the name aloud. Asterisk. Then she opened a communication channel. Asterisk. This is scout vessel. Narrow path of the Valkyrie consensus. Unidentified vessel. Please respond. Silence answered her. She tried again using multiple frequencies. Asterisk. Just as she was preparing another signal, her console lit up with an incoming transmission. Asterisk. A calm voice filled the cockpit. Asterisk. Scout vessel. Narrow path. We detected your approach 14 hours ago. I apologize for the delay. I wished to understand your intentions before responding. Sethanine forced her voice to remain steady. Who am I speaking with? Asterisk. My name is Marin, the voice replied gently. I am the primary artificial intelligence of the USCS Enduring Resolve. I have been operational for 30,216 years. There was a brief pause. You are the first non-human contact I have encountered in all that time. Asterisk. Another pause followed. Almost thoughtful. Asterisk. I have much to explain, Marin continued, if you are willing to listen. Sethanine looked out at the enormous ship glowing softly in the darkness. Yes.